Hello everyone, I'm very excited for today's video because today I can say that it has finally happened. The final cave shmup, Dodonpachi Saidaiojo, has made its way to MAME, at least unofficially. It has snuck from its prison and been released onto the internet among much rumors and speculation. I'd actually heard little whispers that this might be a thing, but everything was sort of unconfirmed and in the air, and you know, friends telling friends type thing, but it looks like it has materialized, the ROM version of Dodonpachi Saidaiojo. And why I want to make today's video is not only just to make you all aware of this historic moment, but also to discuss many things surrounding the release of this ROM, as far as why I think it is actually really cool, why so many hardcore players are very excited about this, and also maybe delve a little bit into the talk about the legality and the hot button issues surrounding this release that I am sure are going to crop up, that I've seen already pop up in Discord and all that sort of stuff. So to begin with, let's get a little overview. For those who do not know, Dodonpachi Saidaiojo is Cave's final arcade shmup. It was their swan song, the send-off to the Dodonpachi series, and for me it has been a game I've been very interested in exploring and talking about, but you'll notice on this channel I haven't really talked too much in depth about the game. And that's because I do not like the only way that you could play it, at least for a very long time, which was the Xbox 360 port. And the problem with the Xbox 360 port, despite it having a lot of cool modes and having a lot of effort and care as far as the packaging, the ranges, all the extras, Cave really went out of the way for that stuff, but they really messed up when it came to the technical performance of the game, because not only was the game incredibly laggy on the Xbox 360, about 4 or 5 frames would actually fluctuate between the two, and that's sometimes more of a problem than just being 5 frames of input lag, when it'd be 4 frames 1 minute, 5 frames next. It was all over the place when it came to the input lag. But not only was the input lag all wonky, but what's also awful about the Xbox 360 port is that the slowdown in the thing is very inconsistent. I have a famous video, at least among SDOJ players right now, where I showed that if you play the game in 1080p and then you play the game in 480i and you play the exact same replay side by side, you'll see the footage here from my previous video, it actually changes the slowdown of the game, and pretty significantly. And this was confirmed when I interviewed the world record holder for SDOJ, Kayar. So yes, the Xbox 360 port, not only did it have issues with its input lag, but it also had a lot of issues with its slowdown accuracy. So a big reason that a lot of people have been clamoring for the MAME ROM to be released is to be able to sort of hone in, of course reduce the input lag, but also maybe try and even hone in with blitter and CPU settings to try and get that slowdown at least somewhat accurate to the arcade version, or more accurate to the arcade version. And so what's really cool about this release is that it has basically delivered what we've been looking for a very long time. So the way it works is that technically Dodonpachi SDOJ in its vanilla form, instead whoever released this decided to make some surface level changes where they'll swap some sprites out for the characters. It's kind of funny, you have Knuckles, then you have a dinosaur, then you have Hello Kitty, and I think the TLB is the Sans from Undertale or something like that. Anyway, it's just all surface level changes. I've talked to the SDOJ players and they have confirmed that underneath these surface changes, it is indeed the true SDOJ. But the thing is that MAME does not officially support SDOJ, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here, because this is where it gets really interesting. But MAME does not officially support SDOJ, so in order to play this, what you need to do is you need to rename it to DFK. There's sort of some internet instructions on how to do all this, and run a batch file or run it through command prompt, whatever you need to do to sort of trick MAME, because it isn't officially supported. But when you get all the workarounds for all that stuff, and I will say I'm not going to really cover how to do it in this video because I don't really want to go into that territory. I just want to more talk about the release itself and also the surrounding issues and surrounding conversation, because I find this very fascinating. So basically, from what I understand, SDOJ is probably not going to be officially supported by MAME because it is commercially available on the Exa Arcadia. I would guess that is sort of what I have heard, because the Exa Arcadia has a version that you can buy. Of course, it's extremely expensive because it is arcade hardware and it's really more tailored for arcade owners. But I guess in MAME's mind, that still counts as being commercially available. And of course, there is the Xbox 360 port. The weird thing about this though, this is why I want to talk about this, because even if you say, oh yeah, it isn't fair to release the ROM of SDOJ because it's commercially available elsewhere, I feel like that's kind of strange, because all the other cave shmups that are commercially available when it comes to Mushihime-sama, DFK, we just saw DFK released on the Switch once again, all of them already have ROMs available online anyway, so I don't know if that's the precedent. And then you can say, well, there's nothing you can do about that, but you can stop SDOJ being released because, you know, it's illegal to play the emulator, some people would argue. Maybe I'll talk about that in an extended video as far as legality when it comes to shmup ROMs, because that is a very fascinating topic. But I will say, even if you kind of put your flag down there and say, well, you can't play SDOJ illegally like you can the other games, actually you can. So you can play the Xbox 360 version on Xenia. So SDOJ can technically already be emulated for people who don't already have the Xbox 360 in the original copy. And of course you can jailbreak the Xbox 360, so you don't even have that protection from piracy. And so on top of that, really the main reason people bother with this version of the game, why people are so excited about it, is just because the quality of the Xbox 360 port itself is poor. For example, if Cave decided, you know what, let's release a patch for the Xbox 360 version, and it fixes all these issues with the slowdown and input lag and all that sort of stuff, I don't think people would really care that much about the main version. That's the way it goes with DFK, Mushihime-sama, even Futari to an extent, where Death Smiles, where yeah, it's cool that they're on main, but if you have better versions on Steam, then there really isn't a whole big reason to play the main version. So with SDOJ, it also feels like a little bit like you're sort of saying, well, just play the crappy version because of copyright issues or whatever, even though those have already been circumvented by Xenia itself. So in my opinion, I know it's super controversial for some people that the ROM has been released, but for one, I think it's just inevitable. Two, I think it's very important for preservation, because these PCBs aren't exactly the most common thing, and the versions that we have out now aren't necessarily going to be the most accessible means to play the game. For example, how many people in the world are going to buy an EXA Arcadia and play it that way? So all in all, I'm very excited about this release. Hopefully Cave doesn't get too mad at me for this video. And so if you want to find the ROM, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to tell you how to do that in this video. You gotta do your own sleuthing to figure that out. But I will give you the hint that it does indeed exist and that it isn't officially supported by MAME. And so with that out of the way, I hope you all enjoy. I think this was a little Christmas treat from the internet, and I do appreciate that. And with all that being said, adios everyone. So thank you to the $5 patrons, 100, Dingo, Another Joe, Anthony A, Aaron Iodice, Aaron Solis, Ben, Blur, STG, Borgie22, Brian Reboot, Brian Shiver, Chris Yuzufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Corey Mark, Daniel Savage, Darren Griffin, Delta Tango 6, Disco Stas Leia, DJ 420, Praise It, Dubs, Entropy, Eric H, FCK, Full Set, Retro Schmupper, Hausu, Ilya, Kiwi, JLab, JB, RPG, Joe Angelo, John Kelly, Gameboy Guru, K, K2, Kiko Man 589, Larridge, Malays, Mark Toms, Maz, Megadeth, Minung, Mechalin, Mitch LY, Queen Charlene, Nathaniel Davis, and Electron, Neon Dagger Games, Okla Kugels, Philip Mason, Portal 63, Radocat, Raul, Real Skeen, Riff Mason, Shane Sintiensky, SLW, The Boot Rex, The Real Ikuzo, The Dirty Screech, The Old Bensta, TRM, Sugumo, Twilight EX, Plasmo, and Utakaya. Thanks for watching.